Okay, here we are, step 2. Please go back and look at your rubric. The second row addresses the organization of the essay. So if you received a proficient or excellent in this row, then this video is not for you. Otherwise, plow ahead. To begin with, you need to look to make sure you used your 5 different in-text citations. There should be one by Steinbeck, Rivera, Rosenberg, Cerna, and your personal choice article. If, of course, you did not use these, the first thing you're going to need to do is find evidence to be able to use it in your paper. Don't waste my time by not doing this correctly, because I do not want to grade another paper that did not use all 5 required sources. Go ahead and check your essay, because if not, you are not going to move out of this box. Now, please go back to your essay as well and look to see if you have a comment or 2 or even 3 about needing a lead-in. Remember that you can never start a sentence with quotation marks. Starting with a piece of evidence is not acceptable. You must have a lead-in. Let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. Some poor examples. After Gigi Jordan was questioned by her defense lawyer Alan Brenner, this is what he said. "Miss Jordan, did you give yourself," and then so on and so forth. This is what he said is a very poor lead-in. You need to be more creative with that without just telling me what somebody said. Lance Anderson from California had killed his ailing sister and wife because Anderson's defense attorney labeled the deaths mercy killing. This does not even blend. If you look at it, it's like 2 completely different sentences. And the third example, in an LA Times article about the case, it was stated that Maxine Anderson da-da-da-da-da. First of all, I told you, do not start with the name of the newspaper, the magazine, the author. All of that is irrelevant information. To show you what some good quality examples would be, look below. During the trial, Miss Lils insisted that heaven was the only place I knew she would be safe and happy, as she was referring to her daughter. That's a great example. And then the second one, Lenny offered to leave, and out of guilt, George pleads, "No, look, I was just fooling Lenny, 'cause I want you to stay with me." Once again, 2 high-quality examples. Once again, go back to your essay and look to see if you have a comment or 2 or 3 about needing transitions. Transitions are needed to allow the paper to flow appropriately. You cannot just jump from one topic to another. Once again, here are some poor examples. Even if people lost the ability to communicate their thoughts, not everyone can assume what they are thinking. A mother, Gigi Jordan, killed her autistic son Jude. There's no transition between the first sentence and the second sentence. Also, isn't this paper about Lenny and George? What kind of a transition can you say after the first sentence about Lenny and George that lends us into the mother, Gigi Jordan? The second example, John's wife could have recovered, but she does not have the chance since Weiss took it. George knew that Lenny would have a painful life and decided to kill him before that could happen. Once again, the first sentence is talking about John and his wife, and the second sentence automatically jumps to George and Lenny, with no transitional statements whatsoever. Notice the equality examples at the bottom. George only took Lenny's life out of love and safety. Similar to Lenny's death, Mr. Weiss shot his ailing wife. Notice how there was a statement that was made, and then it was transitioned into talking about the next thing. And the second example, unlike Anderson, George had no means of controlling Lenny. He was just saving him. Transitional statements are critical to allow the paper to flow accurately. Once again, go back and look at your essay and see if you have a comment near your first statement of the reasoning paragraphs 2 and 3, about it not being a reason for your argument. In body paragraphs 2 and 3, you must start with a claim, which is the reason why you are arguing it is a mercy or a murder. Go back to your essay and look to see if you have a comment about lacking a connection. Remember that the essay is about George killing Lenny, so every paragraph must address this issue. You must show a connection between the other cases and the killing of Lenny. If you do not have a connection. Remember what your essay is about. Once again, go back to your essay and look to see if you have a comment about not blending well. You must make sure that your lead-in blends into the evidence. It must be grammatically correct. Here are some poor examples of blending. George killing Lenny was not a murder like the case of John Weiss in Ohio. Moments later, Mr. Weiss quietly slipped. That's not a complete sentence. It's a big, huge run-on. Look at the second one. When Gigi Jordan found out Jude was diagnosed with autism, Jordan didn't believe the diagnosis and began fearing him to experts and subjected him to arduous treatments for years, she said. Once again, it just goes rambling on and on. So to revisit, how should paragraphs 2 and 3 be set up? Remember, these are your reasoning paragraphs, the reasons why you are claiming that it is a murder or a mercy. Begin by making a claim as to the reason why you are arguing that the killing is a mercy or a murder. Think again about what you are arguing about. After you are done with that, use evidence to support your claim. Make sure you have a lead-in as well as appropriate transitions, that you have given enough info so that it all makes sense. Then explain or analyze how the evidence fits or supports your claim. Use another piece of evidence, and then once again explain or analyze. And finally, at the end of the paragraph, you need to make a final connection as to why everything you addressed in this paragraph relates to what you have argued in your thesis. So if you received a needs improvement or unsatisfactory, then you must redo these 2 paragraphs on a new document and bring it to me before you may move on. If you had to redo your intro, then these should follow the one that I have already approved.